Hey everybody, I'm Karyn Bryant talking with Joseph Benavidez, who is taking on Ray Borg at UFC Denver. Joe B1 Kenobi. You got so many nicknames, Joe. Which one are you using these days?
Just whatever people call me. I just let people decide. It's more of a feeling than than an identity. You know what I mean? I don't let it square me in as like an identity to announce it. Like if someone wants to call me something and that's what they felt, then I let them go with it. So I get Beefcake, Joe B1 Kenobi, Jiu-Jitsu, you know. So it's just good.
It is
I let
good.
the people decide. That's how it all started anyway. I actually let the fans vote what Bruce Buffer would say, and that's kind of how it started. So we're still there. I don't like take myself. I don't like square myself into one, you know.
Got it. I get it. Well, Joe B1 Kenobi is my favorite. And do you still do the Joe B Awards?
Beautiful, isn't it?
It is.
I don't. No. I know I really should, but I think I got to that point where I think when I did the Joe B Awards, which if people remember those, they were almost kind of offensive to my peers sometimes, which was great. And it was all fun and games, but it was like I was a new guy in, like the WC had just joined with the UFC.
Right.
You know, and it was a nice thing to kind of get me out there. But now it's like, you know, I'm 34, married, my dog has an Instagram. So it's like I kind of matured that into like Dapper Scrappers.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I get it.
We kind of just switched it up and went another route instead of just being like best, you know, all the weird things the Joby Awards used to do. But
I get it. Well, they are missed. I love them. And we'll get into the Dapper Scrapper stuff in a minute. But by the way, my dog has an Instagram too. She's SoCal Harmony. What is yours for those who need to find out?
Benny Benavidez.
Yes. Benny Benavidez, right? And we do need to get them together. I keep telling Megan, anytime, like when you guys were here in August, I said we need to get together for a doggy play date. So next time you guys are out here and Benny's here, we need to get him together with Harmony.
Yeah.
Cool.
That'd be great.
Cool.
They need to take a selfie for their Instagram.
Exactly.
It'd be perfect.
So in theory, Joe, I got you here today to talk about some face punching instead of all the other things in our lives that we have going on. Obviously, you have a very important fight coming up with Ray Borg. You were on a real tear. You were doing so great. Real tear. Had a little bit of a hiccup in your last fight, but what are we doing, Joe, to get things back on track? How are you going to get this win over Ray?
Yeah, you know, the way I look at it is like I'm still on a tear.
Yeah.
I had 6 wins in a row before my last fight, which I lost a split decision to Sergio Pettis. But when you look at that fight, like one person changed the narrative that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. You know, one person didn't give me a round. The third round, I clearly won, and that's why I lost the fight. But the narrative could easily be, oh, my God, 7 wins in a row. Came back after 18 months off and looked incredible and outstruck someone who had never been outstruck in the UFC. Because that's, at the end of the day, what I did, you know, and that's what I could control. And I felt good, and that should be the narrative, is like after 18 months I came back. I think there was segments in that fight where I actually looked the best I looked in my career. So I don't look at it as, oh, I had 6 in a row, now I lost. What do I do different? I'm like, the only reason you would even think that is because someone else decided that for you. Like, I had a great camp, I had great people around me, and, you know, performed great, I mean, in the fight as well. I mean, obviously, you know, there's fights where, you know, like, you're good enough to not even make it a decision or a split decision. So, yeah, there's that. And, you know, Sergio had a good night and everything, too. But at the end of the day, you try not to really think about it. It's like, I felt really good, physically, best I'd ever felt. You know, like I said, it was mainly a striking fight and outstruck one of the best strikers in my division and did the only grappling and wrestling. So look at that, and I just keep moving forward. Other than that, you know, a great thing that happened for me after that was Cejudo winning the belt.
Yeah.
That was, I think, even big for me, too, because my last win was over him.
Yep.
So even though I lost to Sergio, like, say I beat Sergio and it was the other way around and Demetrious state champion, I still maybe wouldn't have got a title shot.
Right.
But now, even though I lost a split decision to Sergio, I'm right in the driver's seat for a title shot because Cejudo won. So it just showed me how small the gap was really in talent in our division. Like, I beat Cejudo beat Mighty Mouse, Sergio beat me. Formiga beat Sergio.
Yeah.
Borg has beat Formiga. So it's like, it just shows, like, everyone's skill is still there. Just because I lost one fight doesn't put me out. It almost put me out if Demetrious would have won. Then you would have known, like, wow, the guy's unstoppable. But now it just shows, like, what I'm capable of. After that, gave me a lot of confidence moving forward. So I look in there, going to make a good statement against Ray Borg, and I think having a win over Cejudo puts me in the top spot to get a title shot after this.
Well, and for the longest time, it seemed like you didn't have a fight, and you were in such a great position. You're number one, and nobody wants to fight you. So how did you stay mentally focused, mentally positive in a time where you are at the top of the food chain there, but you still can't even get any activity?
Yeah, just, I think what helped me then is not looking that forward to stuff, not having crazy expectations and just doing what I could control, because instead of looking at, like, oh my God, I have to win 8 fights and, like, finish all of them to win.
Right.
Like, you have to win 1 fight to win 8 fights.
Yeah.
So I would just always look at that first fight in front of me and respect that opponent. And they always, had some great fights along the way, even when I did have nothing to gain, beating some guys, on my win streaks and stuff. I just looked at it as, like, I got to win this one to fight Mighty Mouse anyway, or to get the title again. Like, you got to win 1 to win 8 or whatever. So this is just the next step. And, I love fighting. It's what I do. So I just looked at it as a new challenge every time. And it's always a good challenge to get people out there. Like, there's me, Mighty Mouse, and Cejudo, but, our division is so full. And I think you're going to see that now, kind of like the middleweight division. Like, Anderson Silva ran in, kind of had some undesirable matchups at the end. But once he, like, lost, it was like, oh my God, now the rankings are switching around every day. Everyone beats everyone. It's one of the most exciting divisions. And I see that in our division now. I'm just like, all my fights were tough too. There was just a guy executing at the top perfectly every time he had to defend his title. And now it's like, it's fun. There's going to be, I think, a lot more names and talent are going to come to the forefront.
Well, I thought the same thing, that by Demetrious losing, it opened up a lot of things, an opportunity for people to have different fights. But the Demetrious thing, now there's so much to talk about. But did you think Henry beat DJ?
Oh, my God, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I actually did. Yeah, did, yeah.
Because, it was a split decision, so some people weren't sure. Yeah.
Of course. And that's what you get with split decisions, especially at the top of the game. You see it, how much we see it every week, probably. You get 2 great talented guys. One guy can make an argument for this guy to win. But at the end of the day, there is an argument for Cejudo to win, and it went his way. So, yeah, I actually gave him the fight as well.
Cool. So with Demetrious leaving now, not only did he lose the title, he is now no longer in the UFC. He's over at one championship, and some people are thinking that this means the beginning of the end of your division. So what is your take on those, fear-mongers, let's call them today, people predicting that we won't even see you guys in the UFC anymore?
Yeah, I've heard that from people, but it's more just like assumption. Yeah. It's kind of weird Henry would say that. I don't know if he doesn't want to, like, cut back to 25 or something, or, like, why wouldn't you want to defend the title and avenge a loss that you have?
Right.
He's out there, like, chasing super fights, but you haven't even defended your title to be a champion, and you have a loss lingering. Like, I know if I was a champion, I'd want to avenge all the loss I have. Yeah. Especially a recent one with me. So, yeah, I don't really know. I think the best thing I could say is what I kind of said, like let it breathe now. Like, in the timeline of things, like, our division is so new. This is really the first, like, part of the timeline to happen. We've had one champion the whole time. Yeah. This is the first time there's been a shift in our division. Totally. And it was Stell for this long time. This is the first shift. Like, this is the first thing when you look at the timeline of the division. We're like, oh my God, there's a change. Now what's going to happen? Now who's the next champion? Who's the next contender? And, like, already looking at the top of the game, like, I compared it to the middleweight division because, like, when Anderson was winning some of his last title fights, you were like, why? Yeah. But then once he lost, it was like, oh my God, Weidman. Now look where Weidman is, putting on amazing fights, winning, losing. But that guy's winning, losing. Like, there's so many good matchups and talent to come to the forefront. I think the main thing with our division was it's new. like, we didn't have a timeline or a history to look at. Where, like, say a 205-pound division, you get someone to come in and win, he can beat former champions. He can beat former title contenders. In our division, we've had one champion.
Right.
So we're barely getting to the point where he can beat a former champion. He can beat a former title contender. Like, we finally have a chance for it to breathe where it's not, you know, suffocated by, like, Demetrius's greatness. It was. Like, now that that's over, like, I think people are going to realize, like, how much talent and great matchups can come to the forefront. So, you know, I hope Cejudo does the right thing as a champion and for the division, as far as, like, wanting to defend it, wanting to avenge a loss that he has. I do like what Cejudo's doing, because for him calling out TJ, he did a lot just for bringing attention to the division and the smaller weights in general. I mean, even TJ wanted to cut to 25. Like, that's a good thing for our division. There's talk. That's more than, you know, I would say Demetrious did in his whole title reign, you know, as far as bringing attention, besides him, like, breaking the record, which I thought was great. But, like, him saying all that is great. So I hope we can just keep building that momentum, even if it brings TJ down or other 35-pounders in super fights. I think that's great. And I think a lot of the reason why Cejudo did call out TJ when he won the title is because I had just come off a loss to Sergio, so it didn't make sense for him to call me out at that point and avenge a loss. But say I had won my 7th fight in a row against Sergio a few weeks before that fight, the dialogue would have easily been, I'm the champion now, I want to avenge my loss. Joseph has 7 wins in a row. Let's do it. So, you know, I think we just keep going with that. There's a ton of other talent out. And, like, I'm actually now just so excited for the future. Like I said, this is the first real, you know, important thing to happen on the timeline of the flyweight division. So let's keep it rolling into the future and just see what we can build.
Well, I think that's all very well said, but, you know, people are going to ask you, though, Joe, if it happened, would you be able to fight at 35? What would you do? Would you try to stay in the UFC, or would you go where the division went?
And then left. I guess, you know, what's hard about that is you really...
Like, you don't know. I mean, it's all speculation.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah, you don't know. Sorry.
You guys lost?
We're navigating.
You're lost.
Right. Yeah. Not lost, but navigating. Denver's big.
Could easily.
Yeah, I know. I've been there. Ray's from Denver. I've been there a lot.
I think it's it's more of an option. Like, I don't know the options right now. Like, obviously me, I love the UFC. I fought for a world title at 135 as well.
Yep.
That would be great. Too. But when there's not another option right now.
Yeah.
You know, you put another option there and someone says, hey, well, now this is going there. I'd have to look at the options, you know. So it's cool. I mean, options are good. You know what I mean? It's great not to be trapped or anything, or, you know, you have to do this or you have to leave. Like, it's good to know that there is options, but it's hard to say what options you do till you really have them in front of you.
For sure. Well, you know, getting back to your fight here, obviously you are in Denver already. The fight is going down there. You've been training at high altitude for a while now. You know, when you look back on your rise in the UFC, we know that Uriah Faber was really important, instrumental in basically kind of saving you and helping you get a start in this fight game. You know, where everything kind of got weird between Alpha Male and Dwayne and these guys and that guys, like, where do you stand with folks? Are you able to be, because it seems like you were able to stay neutral, like, are you cool with everybody regardless of what camp people are at, or is there anything that you could never really go back to?
No, I'm cool with everybody. I mean, I always kept myself out of it personally. I mean, I didn't, like, it was more of a personal thing. I did what I think people do in this sport, what TJ was doing in this sport, what people, you know, that stayed in Alpha Male were doing for themselves in this sport is what's best for themselves. So you can never fault anyone for that. So that's just what I did. Upfront about it. You know, the main thing is being just respectful to people and their feelings and what they've done, and just more being upfront. So that's something I've always done. But, like, I don't train with Dwayne anymore either. I do my own thing in Vegas. Like, you know, I work at the PI, I work at Extreme. I have a totally different coaches. Like, after it, I had my camps in Denver and did a few with Dwayne. You know, found a home and a great base of people around me in Vegas, and now that's what I do. So, I'm for the most part as neutral as ever. But even when I wasn't even in the middle of it, I tried to stay as neutral as ever, because I just looked at it as like, hey, these guys are all doing what's best for themselves. I'm not gonna, I didn't really believe in hating on somebody for doing what they think is best for them. So yeah. Not a big deal. It was never a big deal for me.
Cool. Well, no, that all makes sense. And, we mentioned it at the top of the interview here. Dapper Scrappers, folks should know that, you are quite an artist. They maybe have seen you on Instagram, the way you have customized some sneakers and stuff. You're quite the talented artist. And Dapper Scrapper, if a little birdie named Megan told me you guys actually might even be taking this to TV and getting a lot of real backing behind it, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, the option's always to grow. The great thing about Dapper Scrappers for me right now is, like, I love it, and that's what makes it cool. Like, it's a passion, like style and passion and other people, and the sport in general, like building, these guys to be looked at as more of a fighter. Like, that's a passion to me, and that's fun. That's why I started. Like, for everyone out there, like, a quick history on it, like, I started taking pictures on my iPhone at events of my peers in the VIP room, because I was like, look, everyone's dressing up to fights, but why do they dress up? Not to not have their pictures taken, So I started taking pictures of them, posting it, and, I love all my peers. Like, they were really, like, mess with the movement. Soon enough, you see guys like, hey, is Joe B here? Bro, I went shopping. What do you think? And, now it's growing and, like, bringing a little more awareness where, like, every other sport, I mean, they literally have style wars, so I think we're building it up, like, and yeah, so right now it's a passion, and it's great. It's so organic, and that's what I think is great. It's an Instagram. I do have a photographer now. Shout out to Chris John Millington, who's been helping me even sometimes alone if I can't make it, and even the UFC staff will sometimes help me. And that's what's great about it now. But yeah, I mean, the goal is always to grow it, and I have a ton of ideas for it. Obviously, that's just turn our passion into something bigger and into something we can do every day. And, that's the plan. So, yeah, I have a ton of plans for it and people. And, I mean, I haven't even – it's pictures and Instagram right now. I haven't added any video. I haven't added any breakdowns. I haven't added any behind the scenes. So there's just so much we can do with it. And, yeah, so obviously the option's always to grow it, and that's always the goal. So right now we're just working, getting brands out there, getting awareness, and just slowly building it up, but always going to have bigger plans for something that you're so passionate about, for sure.
Yeah, it's really cool and funny. Just a few minutes ago, Alan was here. We were doing the podcast. Alan, of course, a very dapper scrapper, and I remember we were in Florida, and he was all bummed because he couldn't wear his shoes after his fight, and he was like, I'm going to look like a jerk in the dapper scrapper because I can't wear my dope shoes.
I was basically saying that was one of the highlights for me is Alan Joban, who modeled for Versace in an ad where you see in magazines with Gigi Hadid.
Yeah.
And Alan was telling me, dude, I'm sorry, I bought shoes for Dapper Scrappers, but my foot's too swollen to put them on. I'm sorry. And I'm like, dude, the fact you care about Dapper Scrappers and you already modeled for Versace means everything to me. So, like, stuff like that are little, like, high stones and along the way for this, which just keeps the passion going, where I know, like, we're doing something right. If someone that modeled for Versace is worried about, looking like a bum on it or whatever, that was amazing. Joe Bat the best, always brings the heat. And like I said, it's all about the peers. It's a great idea, and it's continued to grow, but once again, because of everybody, believing in it and believing in themselves and wanting to express themselves and be looked at is more than fighters, which is so important in our sport.
It's totally great. Well, listen, Joe, I know it's the countdown, and you're probably just chilling now and going to get your weight on point and all that, but I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today. I'll be in the studio. I'll be in the chair watching you and Ray Borg throw down at UFC Denver, so thanks for joining me today.
It's going to be the best. Looking to entertain as always. Thank you, Karyn. I appreciate you, and amazing job as always.
Thanks. See you soon, Joe.
And good job on all the NFL stuff. It's been awesome.
Thank you. It's so fun. Megan and I were talking about it. Like, it's so fun. Such a cool thing to do, something different. I love it. I love it. It was awesome. But, yes, I know I will be seeing you soon, Joe. So have a great fight.
You're the best. You're the best, Karyn. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.